So I'm Stephanie Nash, and I am here talking with Loch Kelly. Hi, Loch.
Hey, how are you doing, Stephanie?
I'm doing good.
Good to see you.
We met at the International Dharma Teacher Gathering.
That's right.
Right? I remember you swimming in the pond in the lake in the morning. And he did a wonderful workshop there that gave a couple exercises I really liked and I used for the next year. I come from Shenzhen, and it kind of used some of his things, but in another neat, simple, direct way I liked a lot. Yeah. And we're in LA now.
Yes.
And Loch just did a workshop that I attended yesterday, and we thought we would talk about that and stuff. I do want to say the workshop was offered by Compassion LA.
Yeah.
And it's a group here that offers workshops that work with compassion and awakening wisdom workshops. Mm-hmm. And their website is compassionla.org. Yeah. So there's my plug for the people who brought him here, and thank you to them for that work.
Thank you.
And so I just wanted to talk to you about what it is we were doing yesterday with these exercises. I'm intrigued by your style of direct. You're not telling people to go off and meditate for 10 hours and maybe at some point you can reach nirvana or samadhi or oneness with the universe. Yes. Yeah. You have some really interesting exercises and that work with open-hearted. Now what is open-hearted?
Yeah, so open-hearted awareness. So the nonprofit institute that I'm part of is Open-Hearted Awareness Institute.
So, do they have a .com or .org?
We have a website that's under effortlessmindfulness.org or lochkelly.org.
I like effortless mindfulness.
Yes.
I like anything effortless.
Yeah. Yeah. So the effortless is not that you make no effort, but that you discover that there's an awareness that's already effortlessly aware. And that, I think, is kind of the missing piece in the map in Western culture, and is often in even Buddhism and other meditation systems. It's put off into kind of an esoteric, or, well, you really can't access that immediately, you gotta wait, 3 years, 30 years, 3 lifetimes.
Yeah, as you say, a few lifetimes later.
Yeah. Meanwhile, those who do have an awakening, whether it's intentional or unintentional, report back to us that it's already here and it's already available within us. So that's the premise that I was told, and then as a curious, American New Yorker, kind of said well, wait a minute then. If it's already here and it's accessible, let's check it out. Let's see if we can. Are there, groups and approaches and people and teachings that start or do a little more of accessing this, recognizing and realizing this in the midst of daily life, rather than going off to a monastery. So that's
which is
the premise.
Key.
Yeah.
Because have you been to a monastery lately?
Right.
Well, it's great, but we can't all do that.
Yes, and for those who do that, that's another approach. Right. But is there another approach? And what I discovered in kind of traveling around and being interested in this world of meditation, psychology, and eventually the talk I gave at Dharma Teachers was on neuroscience and meditation and awakening. So, really bringing kind of contemporary approach of scientific inquiry, which means what's true, what works, what's actually happening. Are people really getting this? Is this an imagination, or is this really changing people's lives in a way that they're not only waking up, but they're growing up? That's a kind of maturity, integrity, compassion. That is this possible? And I think where I am now is that it really is possible in the midst of daily life. It's almost like the next natural stage of human development. Mm-hmm. And
evolution.
So it's evolution and potential. It's esoteric only in that means that it's it's paradoxical, meaning it's not the normal way we learn something by using our minds or informational is not the way you learn this.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like feeling how you ride a bicycle.
Did you come up with this way of presenting things, or did you study with somebody who did it? Because you have some simple exercises that, like, I don't think I've ever been to a workshop or a presentation where someone just said, okay, we talked for a moment about stuff, but then it's like, okay, let's try this. Okay, feel that? Feel that? And everyone's like, and literally 3 minutes later, everyone's reporting the adjectives. I said, as a teacher, it's like a high five. It's like everyone's reporting all these adjectives of openness, freedom, peace, various things they got just from trying something right there in that moment. Now, did you develop these techniques, or?
I mean, in looking from the beginning for what is the goal, what is the result, what is this thing that people call awakening, or what is that about, what does that give you, what does that mean, what changes, what's absent, what's present. I started following that interesting premise to see who it is that was talking about this. And so then I kind of went around from Zen to Vipassana to Tibetan Buddhism, both the Dzogchen and the Mahamudra, which is really where I ended up. Kind of many of the practices are based on Mahamudra, but some are Advaita, some are from Taoism, but there's
and you can see that thread through them all.
Yeah, and some are just, and then once you start to have a shift into this, what's called recognition or realization, then it's kind of like awareness shows itself to itself. So there starts to be this curious, almost like way that, oh, well, wait a minute, first I'm here and I'm contracted and identified, and then I'm open, and then the openness is embodied, and then the openness is open-hearted, and then it's related. Okay, but now I'm stuck in here, but now I'm blissed in, I'm spaced out. So how do I get from here to here? And is there an intentional way, or is that efforting kind of a doing that keeps you from letting go? So those kind of curious questions, but I didn't approach it intellectually. I approached it like a palpable, experiential experiment. Like, let's find out, let's do it. Let's find the way to shift into it, and find a way to live from it in the middle of, for me, New York City. So kind of like might as well go.
That's where I started. It's
there.
like, that's what I said. If you can walk down the street there, you've got it.
Yeah. And so now I do it in the subway, and it works just as well.
That was the beginning of my practices in New York. Yeah. It's a great opportunity.
Yeah.
So you did put this together yourself. One thing that I'm especially intrigued by, because of physicality, is something that I'm very active with, the kind of embodied person, and I do a lot of movement, and I work with a lot of physical modalities and posture for meditation, and how we communicate with our body, and how we can allow our body to move in certain ways that affects how we think and feel.
Right.
And you, in this development, as you were pulling from all these ingredients and cooking your own stuff, you actually came up with kind of movements. It's a physical way. You have a journey from being in here to the heart, and you just talked about that progression.
Yes, that's right.
And then it's really, you ended up having us do an exercise, actually literally moving from here to the heart to out to, and you had physical movements we did, which I thought, for me personally, I thought there were 2 levels this learning goes in addition. Someone can say something, you can hear it, you can conceptualize it, you can even try moving your focus around, but when you add this physicality, for me, once I'm physically moving, it's like a mudra or something, it goes in my body in a different way, with just you're just using hands and arms to kind of help us bring us into it, but I liked that physical commitment to it. And the second was watching it. You'll be up there, and I was saying, it's like he's conducting with his body, very fluid movement.
And now you're doing it. You're even starting
I
to
know.
talk with your hands
I talk a lot with my hands anyway. But because we
Yeah.
hear things, and that's one, I was
That's
mentioning
right.
this last
Yes,
night, that's one part of the
kinesthetic,
brain,
right.
but then we see you
See
do
things.
it, and visually
Yeah.
we get an impression. So there's the physical, the
Yes.
feeling, we hear the words, and then we see it. And so I thought it is a way of, your whole approach is about, let's just do this right now there, feel
Yeah.
it. And so, and it goes in those three different modalities,
That's
and
right.
see, hear, feel is something that,
Yeah.
I'm trained in those being our
That's right.
three primary sense gates. So I was very, I was impressed, but I liked, it was fun.
Yeah.
It makes it, as opposed to, hi, I'm going now,
Yes.
I got to get enlightened by 2:00, it was really fun. I enjoyed
yeah.
this very much. So,
Yeah.
and your personality is also, you
Yeah.
can get Woody Allen-y sometimes. There's a little,
Just let it.
there's a little, or you had
Yeah.
other comedy people you were doing in there. But so you want to talk about this physicality of it a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, like you, I've also been, always been kind of physical and played a lot of sports. So I would say, one little story would be, one way that I discovered this was that I was an ice hockey goalie. When I was
Were
very
you?
young. Yes.
How are your knees?
Yeah, they're okay.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the sitting on the cushion
My
was
nephew
worse
was
for
an
me.
ice hockey goalie.
Okay.
But
Yeah. So I had discovered the way that I played best was I would shift into another mode of perception. And then I heard on TV somebody talking, a commentator talking about a quarterback, and they said, he's got eyes in the back of his head. And I was like, 14, so I was like, he's got eyes in the back of the head. How do you do that?
How do you get that?
How do you do that? So I literally started developing this way. I thought, okay, well, I can go this far. Let me continue bringing my awareness around this way. And as soon as I brought my awareness around to this 360-degree panoramic awareness, I opened up my panoramic and peripheral vision, and then I dropped down into my body, and there became this natural, almost field of awareness where I felt like a cat. And then I would just trust from there that, I'd see somebody take a slap shot, but there'd be all these legs, and all of a sudden I'd just trust and my hand would shoot out and the puck would be in there. And I figured, okay, so rather than being hyper-vigilant and one-pointed in this efforting mind, learn how to relax, but not relax like go to sleep.
Right.
But there's another mode of perceiving that's called, that people know called the zone, or being in the flow.
Right.
So the flow state,
This was 14?
this was a 14.
In 14 you did
Yeah,
this?
yeah.
Oh, well, see, he's been doing it a long time.
Yeah, so so I felt this, and then I was explaining it to a friend who actually lives in LA and is going to come over
Oh, okay.
in a
Oh,
pick
the
me
one
up in a
that's
little
coming.
while.
Okay.
Yeah, so and I was saying well, I said, how'd you do that, man? And I started to put it into words, and he was like, oh, cool. He was like,
It's like, okay, great, happy
like,
for you. Want a beer?
Okay, I didn't really want that information. I had no idea what you're talking about.
Right.
I was just asking you,
Yeah.
just say something normal, But
You know-
but then one of the seniors on the team overheard me, and the next week he came in and gave me this book, Zen and the Art of Archery.
Oh, yeah.
He said, "Here, kid, this is what you were talking
Wow.
about." Yeah.
Wow. At that age, he was
Yeah.
new to read that.
'Cause
So
that was,
you got,
yeah.
Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. When I was
Right.
at Duke in the art class, she never told us how to paint. She just sat there reading Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. That's what we were like trying to paint. She might come over and go, see that there, okay. And she'd go back and read it. But and then I
Yeah.
did Zen and the Art of Archery. Oh, that is so interesting.
Yeah.
Well, what was, this panoramic vision, and that is key to
Yeah.
what you do.
Yes.
But then the dropping down
dropping
into the
down,
body
head to
part. Now,
heart.
what made you at the age of 14 go, because you just had to do something
Yeah,
physically?
because
That's why you thought to
I
come
felt that shift, that when you open and then are doing something physical, that all of a sudden the feeling is as if you're in every cell of your body,
Right.
and the center is more like your gut, your dantian, or your heart, and you actually are, optimally functioning without thinking about thinking.
Right.
So all that information is processed in, and then I realized, okay, people talk about it in certain activities like sports or art, or
Right.
but can we do this in everyday life?
Right.
In relating,
Right.
in creating, because often you'll see sports stars who get in the zone, when they come out of it, they're actually the opposite. Or you'll see artists or writers who can get in the zone, and then all of a sudden their life is a mess because the rest, they don't feel the way they feel in that. So you almost become compulsively addicted to that which takes you
and
out
I'm
of
an
yourself.
artist, so I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I there are many actors who, when they're acting, they feel so alive.
That's right.
And they will wait tables
Exactly.
and do things for the rest of their life just to get another few minutes of that hit, of that high.
Yes.
And what I try to say as a meditation teacher, that's available in each moment.
Right.
But they think, no, I have to be on stage. They get that zone experience. Oh, two things come to mind. One was the way I understood that samurai were trained was that they're not looking at where their opponent is or where the weapon is.
That's
They
right.
actually go into a broad focus.
That's right.
Where they're not even looking at them.
Yes.
They're literally just kind of, and you go into an almost feeling of the environment, and it's this kind of broad focus. And I remember playing with that myself and realizing that there were times in which I was doing that.
Right.
Driving
Right.
can be one.
Exactly.
Sometimes in driving, I'm just watching the kind of movement of everything, the flow of the visual field. But what naturally happens is this extension out into space in a way where I'm part of the space.
Yes.
I'm just one of the elements moving in it, but this relational experience with everything, it's like we're all one organism and I'm one part of this larger organism.
Yeah.
But this getting back and bringing it into the body part,
that's right.
I do find that what's wonderful is that mindfulness is coming into the Western world, and it's a revolution in a sense is starting there, and that's my hope for our planet at this time.
Yeah.
But often the way in, it is our minds, it's how we're thinking, and the embodied aspect of it is sometimes just left out.
That's right.
Yeah, and that's something that's so important to me, and one of the reasons I adore what you do. It's just what you do is really like my style. I love it. But that you have said every time you talk about that panoramic awareness and then bringing it into the body. And I think of it as including kind of the way I just described it, but it's wonderful that you make that in your journey, that it's got to happen. And so could you just talk about that progression a little more?
So often when people start with mindfulness, which is wonderful for stress relief and for kind of traditional preliminary practices.
And relaxation is wonderful. That's the aspect of the body people will like.
That's right. But that some of the tools of the initial preliminary practices are actually one-pointed focus, using using attention of the moving mind, and yet the effortless mindfulness or more advanced practice, you actually have to learn the other set of skills. You have to learn not only opening your awareness so that you're in the zone and trusting this non-conceptual intelligence that is not checking with thought constantly and is not a quick mind, but actually is a mind that is made of more spacious awareness. So
which goes to the Dzogchen Mahamudra.
The Mahamudra, or even Zen, Big Sky Mind, this kind of thing. And that the small sense of self, which is made of, or the ego center, which is made of thought referring to thought and creates a little character looking out of your eyes that feels like it's looking out of your eyes and feels like it's an entity.
And he does a lot of funny riffs on that.
That is one way of functioning. That's one way of operating. But it's the little thought-based ego center is just too small to deal with a full emotional life, a full life of intimacy and and joy in the world. So we're not just, so I realized that often the first step of stepping out of this ego center and into kind of either a meditative state or even a bigger pure awareness is only partway there, but often important. So the usual progression is calm, use focus to calm or calm to focus, and then that will calm the chattering mind, and then to open up your meditative awareness or discover that there's kind of a bigger, more open mind, open heart, which is literally the feeling you get, not an intellectual idea. And then you're kind of, so the way I have people move is actually to feel like awareness can unhook from thought and then open to the space.
And that unhook from thought, he always puts it that way, and I like that very much.
Yeah.
It's like, it's there, no, just unhook.
Yeah.
It's very gentle. It's just like, he just says it, and everyone goes, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I thought that was like so perfect. Anyway, keep going, sorry.
Yeah. And you know, one of the strange premises that I realized I didn't even realize I was doing in the beginning, I thought in the beginning, well, okay, but yeah, the one who's unhooking is not the doer, is not the ego that's unhooking. But then I just kind of kept going, and then I realized, oh, I see what I'm doing. I'm actually asking the awake person, the awareness that they already are, that they've already been, to unhook awareness from thought, and that awareness, or that awake, empty, lucid clarity has a life already and actually has the ability to move and has a kind of intentionality. It isn't just passive. And that often it's been defined as this passive, recognition of awake awareness, that you sit in a meditative state,
right,
and it's lovely and it's free of suffering. But then one day back to work from a long day retreat, and you have the only option you have is operating from ego center. So this is really about upgrading the operating system.
Ding, ding, ding. Our little tech drop there.
Gotta use some of these
Gotta apply
modern
it, appeal to
metaphors.
everyone. Yeah, okay.
But literally, stepping out of the current little small sense of self, opening to space, and then discovering that the awareness actually is discovering an aware mind, what's called nature of mind, big sky mind, pure awareness that is already aware and has already been aware, both outside and then.
And before you go on, and there's someone could never have. I just want to say this. This isn't just like, hi, I've been on a spiritual path for 12 years now, and now I'm trying chapter number 17. Someone could walk in and have never done anything and go through this. So it's appealing kind of directly in that way.
Yeah.
But one thing I want to say about when you're talking about big sky mind, there's a space. I want to just kind of emphasize the spatiality of it. That we're here. No, we're not. You really get the sense that no, you are. So that sense of that extended space of self. I just wanted for someone who could just walk in there and go, oh, my awareness is that big. How can that be? And again, he takes you right there experientially, like in 2 seconds. Yeah. So, but now continue on.
Yeah.
So you go out.
Yeah, and just to say what you're saying, because it's the most important point, is that this awakeness that's both embodied and open-hearted is already here. And it's a consciousness that's already installed in us. And it doesn't have to be developed or created, but we haven't known how to access it. So that's been my whole project. It's like, wait a minute, why do you have to do this and this and this to get to here? Because once I'm here, let me feel what it's like to lose it, and then let me go back and shift back into it. Oh, well, I didn't have to do those 8 things to get back. Let me see what is the map of consciousness experientially, and then how do you navigate it? And then how do you translate it to somebody and make the language more contemporary and more experiential?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I've been doing, is like translating, not just text, but you know, like.
What's your New Yorker direct get it? Is it here?
Yeah.
Just get to the point, right?
Yeah, let's go.
Do what's needed and no more.
Yeah, and do it like you learn, take care of your consciousness the way you learn to eat, or whether you go to the gym or you do, yoga posture. It's like, sometimes I call it the yoga of awareness. But the interesting thing is, which is what I'm coming back to now, is that what it is that's moving and what it is that knows this ground, which is pure awareness, is only awareness. And that's why most people have missed it, is because we're trying to effort it, we're using our will, we're using our mind, and we're even using attention of the mind, which actually can't see it, nor can mindful witnessing see the pure awareness. So even that which pulls back and is able to observe thought can't turn around. It actually has to be that which is already made of the non-local awareness that's locally attached or identified. That can drop, that can open from thought, and then discover itself as kind of non-local awareness and be aware of itself without thought and without senses. It just doesn't have to do it that long. It doesn't have to be a long retreat or a half-hour meditation. It just needs to plug in or surrender or tune in to that which has already been aware. And then as that which is aware, the next important move is the intentionality realizes, oh, form is emptiness, now emptiness is form. So the awareness realizes its aliveness, and the feeling of the ocean appearing as waves of consciousness is where you drop back in, and you have it's like you've shifted figure ground of what's awake, what you're aware of. Then you can be aware of all your thoughts, feelings, sensations, but you're aware from this huge, loving, supportive, inside, outside is the same, and you're free of the anxious, perpetually dissatisfied commentator.
That's it. We could just stop right now. That pretty much did it.
Just basically.
God, so many things I wanted to say there.
And then one more thing is that, so then when there's this embodied kind of continuous field of awareness that's primary, the anxiety is gone about anxiousness and the judging, but you still have your full range of emotions. You're not detached. But you just
start walking into walls or anything,
You're actually in a flow state, which is more optimally functioning, and you've dropped not only into your body, but you've dropped from head to heart mind. Mm-hmm. So there's a feeling that people, even if I don't describe it, they say.
And I love the term heart mind.
Yeah.
It's juicy. What I was going to just say, two things real quick. One was when you just described that, and I applauded, but you talked about the kind of loving support of it. Yes. And I remember I came up to him after, in an intermission, or maybe it was after the Friday night thing you did.
Yes.
And I said, when he was describing it, and I thought, when I first learned Buddhism and they were talking about refuge, I thought that's what they were talking about, because I thought that is the ultimate refuge.
Yes. And it is the ultimate refuge, that even in Buddhism you start with Buddha, and then you start with your guru or your teacher. You take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, and then you start, with, and then you realize, the teacher's outside, no, the teacher's inside, and then some Tibetans do there's a deity, but then the deity melts into you, and then you arise as that. So ultimately, it is in the systems, ultimately the refuge is the Tao or the Buddha nature, true nature.
But it's like a direct path to the ultimate refuge.